My guest today is Cara Vaval. She's an attorney, confidence coach, and the woman behind the laptop lifestyle lawyer brand. Say that 5 times fast. She's the founder of the InPowerment Institute, where she helps high achieving women step into what she calls their main character, with a K, era. She's a two-time author. Her first book, 28,000 Days, Make Yours Count, challenged women to live with urgency and intention. Her newest book, From Clearance to Priceless, is a bold call to reclaim your self-worth and rise into your fullest potential. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You are probably talking about all things from inside the book, which I know is going to come up as we talk, but I love giving listeners a behind the scenes peek into the real life of an author and how a book comes about, who you are, how you write, all the kinds of things. So I love starting with early memories. So you grew up in Haiti
Yeah.
and faced some profound losses early in life. Were books and or writing a part of how you made sense of things as a young person?
Not at all. So I never had author on my bucket list. I never thought I would write a book. It was never necessarily a goal of mine. I grew up in Haiti, like you said, had a pretty charmed life. And when I was 14 years old, my father was brutally murdered back home. And that changed how I saw myself. It was definitely, there was an identity shift in that because I was a daddy's girl and I went from having a safe, really sheltered all girl Catholic school life on an island. We lived well. We had help. My mom tended to her garden and had her maids. And, we grew up, we had the drivers and we lived well. And then overnight, everything changed. And my father was the breadwinner. And I found myself not being able to really deal with any of that because my mother, my father was only 42 when he died. And so my mother was 40. So she found herself single mom of three kids with the breadwinner gone on an island, right? I mean, just picture all of that, right? And also, I could see how disorienting it was for her. So I had to grow up overnight. My brother was 5, and somehow, some way, there's like this thing in me that was like, I'm gonna take over that job. And so I became his mom in a sense, and wanting to make sure that he was steered in the way that my dad had steered us because it was just something that was ingrained in me. Middle child syndrome. Just let me just add that for all the middle children on this, because dear listeners, they'll pick up on that one. Anyways, so moved to New York a few years later, and I was living with my maternal grandmother. That's where I went to go to college. And my first semester in college, our house burned down and she didn't make it. And so loss hit me a second time.
Wow.
I was just like, I literally had a moment where I looked at God and I was like, dude, do you have a personal vendetta against me?
Yeah.
Like, what did I do? What did I do? Is this a past life thing? What are we doing here? Right. And so what happened though is because I didn't have space to grieve or time, I knew I could either go down a dark road or I keep pressing on. So I went and, took 18 credits in college and 3 jobs and just going and going. And it was just like everything happened for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. I'm gonna figure it out later. But right now, I gotta keep trucking along. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose my marbles, right?
Yeah.
So push through. And eventually I graduated college, came down to South Florida, went to law school, and I was still just doing the things, right? All the right things, checking all the boxes and whatnot. And my first job out of law school was with a securities litigation attorney, and he gave me the job contingent upon me passing the bar. So I started the job in August. I had sat for the bar exam in July, and I was waiting for the results to come out. And the results were set to come out in September. Well, in August, probably about a week or two into the job, I found out I passed a different test. It was a pregnancy test. It was, I know, because that's exactly what you do as a rookie lawyer, right? You
Right.
just go get pregnant, right?
I love it.
So I was like, oh my God, like, can I catch a break? I'm doing the things. And yet it's just like the forces that may be just keep colliding with my plan. It's just, I didn't know, but it was the best plot twist that could ever happen because when I had my son, I literally could not get myself to put him in daycare to go back to work.
Mm.
But my student loans were kicking in. I needed to pay stuff back. And I prayed really hard one day and I walked into a Target. And this random lady walks up to me, offers me a facial with Mary Kay Cosmetics. And I'm like, okay, so sure. So she comes to my house, she does her thing, and she was an architect, and that's what she was doing to make money.
Yeah.
So I was like, how does this thing work? So she explained the business of Mary Kay to me. And for $100, I bought my freedom. I bought my starter kit. I started selling the shit out of this lipstick and color cosmetics and skincare stuff. And my first six figures I made through Mary Kay. And Mary Kay actually funded my law firm, which is today 17 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's my backstory. And why do I tell you that? Is when I got into Mary Kay, I found out two things about myself. Number one, I found out I had a gift to empower women. It's not something I knew I had. And had it not been for that plot twist, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you or having two-time authored anything, right?
Yeah.
So Mary Kay was the platform where I got acquainted with personal development work because it's one of those things. You read that kind of material and the self-development leg of that business is pretty strong. And in being in Mary Kay, I got exposed to the fact that I even had a subconscious mind. I didn't know I had one. That wasn't something that,
Right.
they taught in school. That information and all of the ahas, I'm like, oh my God, how did I know I create my life? Get out of here. Why didn't they tell me? I mean, I've been letting life just throw me like a bag, like a
Yeah.
shopping bag being blown in the wind from left to right. And now I'm finding out that I could create my life. So that's how I published my first book, which is 28,000 Days Make Yours Count. And 28,000 days is the average lifespan of a human being. It's about 75 years. And my dad got only 42 years.
Wow.
I'm 43 today. So I've outlived him by a year. And the reality is that we don't know when our days are going to be done, right? Some of us get to live the full 28,000. Some of us outlive the 28,000. Some of us don't. And so that experience created an urgency for me to get a message out of you can create your best life, not just
Mhm.
a life, your best, because you could die.
Yeah. Well, you're
And you
going to.
are
You just
going
don't know
to.
when.
You're going to eventually, right? But it was just like the sooner you get about the business of creating the life that really matches you and suits you, at least while you're here, you're not struggling and going against the grain and clawing your way out of this experience. And then, so that was my first book. That was 10 years ago.
Wow.
And then came my divorce. That was the one that caused me to start writing From Clearance to Priceless. It wasn't titled From Clearance to Priceless. It was originally titled Why I Had to Leave a Good Man, which as I went through that experience, I was like, well, he's not a good man. So I'm not gonna call it that anymore, right? Because I just had a different experience of the
Right.
person, because who you marry and who you divorce is two different people. And then it took me about 6 years of trying to get that message out. And I was healing and growing. So every time I came back to the manuscript, I was no longer feeling as strongly as the words that were on the page. I didn't relate to the book every time I came back to it because I would literally have to put it down at times as I was going through my evolution. And then I ended up in a relationship that came came out to be some like narcissistic empath type dance. And that was the one that when that
Mm.
ended, just cracked me wide open. And I was just like, oh my God, I am literally a danger to myself
Mm.
because I've ignored every red flag that I saw And for as smart a woman as I am, how the hell did I end up in this?
Yeah.
And so that's how From Clearance to Priceless came about. Really, and I ended up hiring a book coach to hold the space for that and the container to get that done. And, even though I had been struggling for 6 years to get it out, in 1 year from hiring her, it's in the world. All that is what is behind the woman, the author of this book. So I
Yes.
gave you a whole lot. You asked me one question, and I'm like,
I
holy
love
shit,
it.
I've been rambling. But I gave you a good little setup background of who I am and why this book is what it is.
Yes, that is perfect. I could ask you 100 questions now. I
Awesome.
won't
I'm
ask
ready.
that many. First of all, the magic that happens at Target. Who knew that someone
Right?
walking in would spark that? And it sounds like your book, 28,000 Days, it felt like it was urgent to get out. Like
Yes.
it was, you have to get this out. Can you tell us what the writing process was like for that?
That
Like what it looked
probably
like?
was the easiest thing that I ever did
Mm,
because I was so eager to get that out. It was a teaching manual. So it was not personal, even though I did share my personal journey when it came to losing my father and all of that in the book. But it was more about having my reader understand what to do when it comes to doing paradigm shifts. How do you do that? What are the affirmations that I was reciting that you might want to recite? These are the books I read that you need to read as well. This is what your subconscious mind is. This is what your conscious mind is. This is your desires or possibilities seeking expression. You should know that. You should know that your desires are implanted in you because they're meant for you. And I was just like going in on the creative process, like how I understood it, because for me, it was such novel information and such necessary information. I'm like, what the heck? Why am I 31 and learning this?
I
That's
don't think I
that's
learned that till I was almost 40. So,
But can you imagine? And I'm sure when you learned it, you're like, bro, that would have been great information.
right.
Anyways, obviously everything happens when it's supposed to happen in our lives. So it was just one of those things that the sooner I can get it in someone's hand, the sooner I can help them maximize their 28,000 days. So yes, there was urgency. So between putting pen to paper, and I self-published with Balboa Press, it was 2 years. Everything was done. And mind you, this is while I have small children, I'm running a firm, I'm growing my business. So for me to have gotten it done that quick, and this is before you even had your AIs or any of that. So there was nothing, no tools other than me just typing and going through it and going with an editor and all of that.
Yeah.
This one, I mean, if
It's
I didn't hire the coach, I will say that until I'm blue.
yeah.
If I didn't hire her, this book probably would still be on version 20. Like it would
Mhm.
be at least version 10. Because she came when I was already probably in my fifth rendition of the manuscript. And
I
she came into my life also like that woman came in Target.
of course.
So it was just a very divine appointment. It had to be her. And she held such sacred space for me to be able to heal certain things so they did not make it into the book, which I
I
know you understand what I just said because that's
yes.
what you do.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I love
Yeah,
that you said your first book was easy. So many people don't feel that way about their first book, but I love that yours was because it gave you a mental picture or a container to know, yeah, I can do this. I can do this again. And you
right.
did.
Except that when I would try to do it again the same way, that did it. So then I realized different books are, some can be easy and some, so depending on the book you're writing, it's not you, it's the book that's hard to write. It's not
Yes.
necessarily you, because I am still the same person, and yet the second book was hard to write,
Yeah.
when the first book was very easy to write for me.
Yes. I love that you touch on that. Different books require different approaches, and you were a different person
Yeah.
completely. And you were also a different person from the time you started writing From Clearance to Priceless to the time you finished, for sure.
And it was personal. It was
Yes.
personal because I was talking about things that I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus because I still have kids. I wanted to tell my story, but I wanted to leave everyone's integrity intact, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. That was very important for me. And so I wanted to tell the truth without spilling the beans,
Of course.
if that makes sense. And then also, I didn't want to bleed on my reader because it was really raw stuff. And I'm very vulnerable in the book, which I know in its healed format that it's in, it can help someone. If I had given it to her while I was still bleeding, I would bleed on her, which then she would have to carry that. And I didn't want that for her. I wanted her to be able to connect with my story, see herself, and deal with her things, have nothing to do with me.
Hmm.
And let that be what she works with as she works through the book and through her stuff.
Yeah. So were there big chunks that you needed to edit out or rework?
Absolutely. I mean, yes. I definitely had to. There were paragraphs that didn't make it in. And also, I just didn't feel that way anymore. I had transcended those feelings. And so it wouldn't have been me to keep that in, right? There was no more anger. There was no more pain. It was lessons. And I took responsibility for everything. And to
Mhm.
get to that, you have to heal a lot of things. So I couldn't put this book out until I had fully done the work. And that was actually what the gift of the book was for me. I think the book was a selfish thing for me because at the end of the day, it was the catalyst for my healing. And because all of that now is out, I have so much freedom.
Yeah.
So much freedom came from telling a story that once had me in its grip, right? And now is just a story. There's something really, really beautiful and cathartic about writing your experiences and feeling them as you get them on the pages and moving through the emotions and allowing yourself to get on the other side where it's now just a story.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I understand there were lots of challenging pieces. What was probably the most challenging piece in getting that book together?
I think the challenging piece was getting out of all the things that I wanted to say and getting into what she needs to hear.
Mm, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
big difference.
that's a huge difference. And originally, and that's why it was so much dumping, right? It was just like tell all, like, I was just gonna just tell everything and vomit all of the stuff that I have in me that I went through. And then it was a woe me. It ended up being a woe me. Like, who cares? Everyone has their thing. Everybody has their fact pattern that they went through.
Yeah.
These were just mine. And that wasn't the point of the book. I had to sit back, and that's what my book coach helped me get clear on. It's like, are you doing a tell-all, or is this a teaching opportunities? Is a teaching kind of, it is kind of like my story, but she has a name for it. But anyways, it escapes me now. But what's your intent? So I think when you're writing a book, you really have to intentionally write the book.
Yes.
Who is your audience? Who are you writing this book for? And until I went through her process, it was very disorganized in my head. I just was wanting to tell the story, and then I guess she just figures out what she gets out of it. Right? She'll figure out what she needs from all of that. I'll tell her all the shit that happened, and she can just find herself in there.
Right. Here you go.
Whereas in this version of what actually came out, it was intentional that by the time she was done reading the pages, she understood how, in her way, she's putting herself on the clearance rack. I'm not telling her, she's looking at it for herself because I'm just telling her how I did it and how I got off. So she knows how to get off. I gave her the tools of the lessons that taught me of how costly it is to go on a clearance rack and what it's probably costing her. And she's got to assess if she wants to keep paying that or not. And that's on her. Right. And then I went into all of the mindset shifts that need to happen where you go from victim to taking full responsibility for what caused you to even allow someone like that into your vortex, for example,
Mm.
right? Evidently, I had some wounds that needed tending to. I didn't have a chance to tend to them when they occurred, but my abandonment wound was real. I did not know I had an abandonment wound. I was 14. My father was murdered. He didn't decide to leave. It's not like I had an absent father who wanted to be absent. But yet, the little girl in me experienced that the
Hmm.
first love of her life left her.
Yeah.
And so, the best way to protect myself from that experience again is to find emotionally unavailable men and emotionally unavailable people generally, so that everything is very surface. It's very so then we're good. But
Right.
yet, but then it's never very surface because you end up building lives. And I'm a human who actually is a very emotional person. And so then I would get really hurt when the character showed up as who they are. And I'm like, I can't believe you're like that. Well, it's showing you that the whole
Yes.
time. You just keep acting like you don't see. And for a smart woman, I mean, in the emotional aspect, I was like the dumbest chick on the block, right? But I was also the most wounded. So I had to give myself grace and understand that I couldn't have done better. And now that I know better, I do better. But I had to give myself grace for not knowing things that only time could teach me, only
Hmm.
experiences could teach me, and only pain could teach me.
Right.
And so when you're in the thick of your darkness, when you're in the thick of the pain, what a gift.
Yeah.
And most of us, we run away from it because we don't want to feel it. This sucks. So it's like, I'll get the bottle, I'll get the whatever, I'll do whatever. I'll go party, let me find another man, or let me find a. I've been sitting in this. I was just like, I am not getting up until I have felt all the feels. I have learned everything there is to learn so that I never reproduce this again.
Mm.
And that's the gift that writing the book has given me.
Yeah. I'm just going to call it that. What a gift
What a
that it
gift.
gave you and then your readers. Were there any
Freedom.
points where you needed to put the book down for a time to dive back into healing work?
Yeah, definitely. It was a dance. There were times where my book coach couldn't find me.
So
You know,
that's where some of my clients are.
I went rogue.
They disappear sometimes.
Yeah,
I know
I
nothing
went
wrong.
a couple of times. So bless her heart. She was definitely, and I say that you can't do this work unless you really love it
Hmm.
because your clients can piss you off, right? And she had the patience of God with me. And I knew that her heart was definitely in it, not just because she's a coach and she's earning her living through that, because she loved the project. She loved me. She loved the message. She knew what the impact was going to be. And so she stayed on me. And so that was a gift as well. But there were many times, absolutely, I was emotionally tired.
Hmm.
You have to want to do this, right? And, although I would recommend someone write a book, obviously to publish and to get it out there, I would even recommend you write a book for your sake.
100%.
No, you don't even have to get it out.
Yep.
So the frustrating part for me also was the publication, like the editing. And by the time we get to those things, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't even want to see this thing anymore. Right? I don't want to
Yes.
see the manuscript. I don't want to, whatever. It has a typo, let it go. It's like, I don't care anymore. Like, I don't care. Right. You get there. I'm real because it's a process. And at some point, you also want to be done. I've had plenty of those moments. And like I said, I had moments where I definitely had to put the manuscript down altogether because I just didn't have the bandwidth. I didn't have
Hmm.
the bandwidth to share. I was still in the thick of my own things and licking my own wounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very real. I want to talk about what you might think is the boring stuff. What did an average day writing and editing look like? Did you have a time of day where you like to write? Did you have a rhythm?
I did not. And I remember when I was prescribed or recommended to put blocks of time on my calendar to get it done. And I just told her, I was like, listen, if I remember my first boss when I left my job, I went to have my kid. And when I came back to his office with my pink Cadillac a few years later, I said to him, just because of how you treated me, I would never work a day in my life with anyone else. I
Mhm.
mean, he was a nice guy, just not a good boss.
Hmm.
And he said to me, good kid, because you're psychologically unemployable.
Hmm.
So I
Oh,
think he was wanting to insult me, but to go back to, I am not a by the book structured person. You
yes.
have to know who your person is. I
Hmm.
am one of those people. I've been a free spirit, especially since I've been an entrepreneur. I work when I work. I never have the same day. I can never tell you what my day is going to be on any given day because I don't know. I know what I have to do and I know what has to get done by the end of the day. How that's going to happen, I don't know.
Yep.
So writing at a specific time every day was never going to happen. Sometimes I binge write. I would spend an entire weekend writing and then I would put it down and I wouldn't touch it for another week. Or some days I would pick up my laptop and I would type for just a few paragraphs. One thing that I did a lot of is, and I'm very big on that, is talk to text.
Yes.
I was just literally in my bubble bath and I would just hit record and Otter.ai was just
Yep.
like
Love it.
transcribing everything I was saying, and then I would just go and copy and paste it into the manuscript. So those were all different ways that I got through doing it. What I loved about the process was once I was able to identify the message that I wanted her to get and I was able to break them into the various chapters that those things were going to make them into, right?
Mhm.
This is where this is going. This is where this lesson's going. I knew, okay, so sometimes I would get inspired for something that was in chapter 8, excuse me. And then so I would just go and dump it there.
Mhm.
And then I would get inspired. So the way that the book got came together for me, it was definitely not linear. It wasn't like chapter one, two, three, four. Like I would write along the chapters depending on what I got inspired to write. And that worked for me. And by the time it was all done, it was very coherent.
Mhm.
Everything was, but it was because we had a framework. And so it flowed once it all came together.
I love that. I
Yeah,
think what you describe is really you found your own flow with writing and you
correct.
didn't stick to rules and that you followed a non-linear process. So many people think I need to go in and start chapter one, chapter two. You,
No,
our brains don't work, especially as women and creative and a
right.
business owner and a mom and you're an attorney. I
You
mean,
can imagine.
actually, that's what's interesting. So I want to dive into that for a little bit. So as an attorney, very left brain,
Right.
logical, linear process. And then there's
Uh-huh.
this other side that's I'm going to write all weekend, not write for a week, do this. How do you balance that? Did one side maybe fight with each other or
No, because I was still getting it done. I'm a results attorney. Like I'm not a fluffy, airy, talk a lot attorney. I'm very, what's the issue? How do we get here? And what do I need to do in between to get it here? And
Mhm.
that's it. That's just always been how I function. And I'm going to do it in my cadence. And that's it. And so I am the most unconventional lawyer, by the way. I go by the laptop lifestyle lawyer, as you picked up.
I
And
love
that
it.
was right. And so I've always been about practicing in a way that supports your lifestyle, not in a way that is typical lawyer, like you got to be this way. I'm me. I can't be the lawyer. I'm not stuffy at all. I can't perform. I'm not a performer and I'm super authentic and that's just how I am. Anytime I've ever tried to be anything else, it's the most uncomfortable thing. It's like wearing something that's two sizes too small, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
And I can't do it. I can't do it, not at my big age now, but I could never do it in the first place. So for me, there was no structure already to my person, to who I am and to how I function, to even how I lawyer. So that definitely was not an issue for me. Again, it was always, I need to get this done. And I have to get it done by whatever deadline she gave me, which we
Mhm.
had to reschedule a couple of those because, again, I had some moments where I just didn't have it.
Yep.
And she respected that. I went rogue because I was in my corner rocking myself. Right? Or taking time off with my kids or taking time, mental health time for me. And I'm like, I don't want to think about this stuff. And so, but at the end of the day, I think we originally shot for it was supposed to happen in 6 months and it ended up taking 8 months. So from when I started writing. So it wasn't terrible. We weren't completely off schedule. But yeah, she definitely was patient with me.
Nice. That's still a good time frame.
Yeah.
What do you think was the most surprising thing that's come out of either of these books?
The surprising thing is how, and I don't think it's surprising as much as it's so confirming how similar our human experience is.
Mm,
We have different fact patterns that color our individual stories, right? You live where you live, I live where I live. Obviously, you have your set of kids, I have my set of kids, and so on and so forth. But we get challenged by the same things, we suffer the same pains. We are so much more connected than we're not. And for me to put a story out and for it to have the impact that it's having and for people to send me messages like it's like you were talking about me when
mm,
I was not talking about them. I was talking about me the entire book, but it literally resonated at that level where my readers felt like I was literally talking about them. So for me, that was one of those things that tells me I have a saying, we are all branches of the same tree.
mm,
And your contribution to this tree is so important because you won't know how it benefits, who it benefits, and how it benefits the people. But we're so interconnected that it will benefit so many people. You know, when I think of some of the authors that have influenced me. I think of Bob Proctor with the Paradigm Shift video series. I think of Wallace D. Wattles, for example, Science of Games. These men are no longer with us. And I'm talking about gone long time. Wallace D. Wattles wrote his manuscript, I think in 1930 something, yet has such an influence on my life. So the legacy of a book, of how it just transcends generation, it transcends time. It's timeless because it's your unique view that no one else has. You're the only person, you're the only Jacqueline who has the exact makeup of who you are. You're the only person who has the exact perspective that you have, that you grew up in the environment you grew up in. Like, the fact that I'm a Haitian girl who, lost her dad and then went to New York and then went to law school, went to Mary Kay and got to like all the layers that make me me. My story is so me and unique and individualized. That's everyone. And so your story is so important and it's so valuable because it's how you tell it is a catalyst for someone else's breakthrough. It's a catalyst for someone else's aha moment. And they might be locked into something and then they read your book, they read something that you wrote, and they're like, oh, that's what I needed.
yeah.
And then they're off to the races, right? And so I don't know. I think that to whom much is given, much is required. And I've been blessed to heal things, to have the insight into and discernment into life and its principles and how I can use them to not only my benefit but to help someone else. And what a gift that I get to do this.
That is such a gift. I love that people came to you and said things like, "Were you writing to me?" Like directly to me, this is me. And
Yeah.
many authors hesitate to put those pieces in the book because they think It's too vulnerable, it's too much, who cares? There is literally at least one person on the other end having an experience just like yours
Yep.
and needs your words.
Absolutely. And you do her and yourself a disservice, not including that.
Mhm.
Because in sharing that, you heal, you release, and you make your pain serve. I always said, I don't want my pain to go in vain. I don't want to be the only person who understood, who got the lessons on the other side of this pain. The pain was so excruciating. It was so raw. It was so hard to move through. For that to have happened and no one got to benefit from that is ludicrous,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a duty and it was also, it was a responsibility. It was a, how dare I get on the other side? You know how many people never get on the other side? Dude, like,
Most.
so exactly. So how
Mhm.
dare I get on the other side and not report back? This is what you can do, girl. Did it. Just
Exactly.
get here. I'll implement this stuff and then let me know, you know? So
Yes.
I don't know. I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to obviously live our individual lives, but I think in the interconnectedness of this whole thing, we owe ourselves and the people who are connected to us to share what we go through, learned, and it just makes you more human.
Yes. We're
And
meant to share it. This
yeah,
might be too soon to ask you. And because I know that you are on making your rounds on TV and
right.
podcasts, are you
Yes.
writing anything next? Something stirring in you
Nothing
yet?
stirring yet. Right now, I want to work with the people who have been impacted by way of my retreats, my cohorts, and things like that, because I do know that, it's one thing to do it alone. It's a whole nother ball game when you're in community. It really just skyrockets you're getting there, so to speak, right? And
Hmm.
so I know that I can hold really safe containers for women. I've done it and I get them where they need to land because I've taken myself through it. So I know it personally in every fiber of my being. And that's what I really believe my calling has always been. Law was what I needed to do to finance a lot of the dreams, the real things that I was created for. And it allowed me to access all these different platforms. I mean, I've been on Lisa Nichols obviously is the one who wrote the forward to the book. I've been on her campus. I've been on T. Harv Eker's campus, your Tony Robbins. I've been trained by the best. I've been
Yes.
around the best. So I've picked up along the way just the methods that are effective and because they worked for me. And so I can now hold that space for other women who can't make it to all these other campuses, but can come to me.
Yes, I love that. Kara, I could talk to you all day. Final
I
question. Final question
know.
that's a two-part. You're sitting down with a woman who's probably 15 years before your time with these struggles. Part one, what are you drinking when you're sitting down to talk to her? And two, what do you say to her?
What am I drinking now? Or oh, she's 15 years. I'm gonna have wine with her because she needs it. Today I could have tea, but
Yes.
she probably would only relate to any of the stuff I'm talking about if I meet her with some wine because she's having that to
Mm.
regulate, right? And so that was your part one. And what am I saying to her?
Yeah.
I'm saying to her that it none of it is happening to her. Everything is happening for her. It is all character development. It is all necessary. So I would definitely tell her to relax. And I know it's not the easiest thing to hear because she's probably going to throat punch me for saying that because she's going to be like, "Bitch, there's nothing
Probably.
to." Yeah, she's like, I don't want to relax. This is not a relaxing place. And I get it. However, I would insist that she relax because the tighter you hold on, the tighter you're gripped, the harder it is for the release and the energy that heals, the energy that grounds, the energy that flows is not tight. So you are literally in opposition to where you're trying to land.
Mm.
So that would be the first thing. Take a deep breath. Every step takes you closer, as long as you're going in the right direction, is
Yeah.
going to take you closer to that, whatever promised land looks like for you. And so knowing that where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. You couldn't be anywhere else. And who you are is exactly who you're supposed to be. And that you're perfect, whole, and complete just the way you are and just the way you're not. And if you're having a shitty experience, it is because of certain things that you just did not know that now you're about to find out. And when you know better, you're going to do better. So in doing better, you will land in a different land. So that is what I would say to her because that's me.
Yeah. That's perfect. I have goosebumps. That is so good.
That's me. So
Yep.
I love the work that you're doing. So kudos to you for being in this space and inviting people like me to speak to. I don't know who is going to hear this. I hope if there's one person who gets what we just talked about and that hits her in her soul and that she ends up calling you and working with you and getting her story out, then I did my job. We did our job. We did what we were brought together to do today. And I command you because your work is sacred work, more than you probably know. Believe me, because for someone to hold that kind of space for another human makes you a very distinct kind of human. So just want to give you your flowers on
Thank
that.
you, Kara. I appreciate that. I know there is at least one woman listening who's like, oh, I needed this. And when she reaches out, Kara, I'm going to reach out and let you know too, because I know the impact as an author as well, and you as an author and as a coach. Sometimes you don't necessarily see all the impact. And when you hear it, even if it's one shift and someone's like, yes, Kara did it, I can do it. She's a lawyer with kids and businesses. She wrote 2 books. I can do it too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So, Kara, we can find you online at karavaval.com. Best
Yep.
to find you anywhere else we should look to connect
That's
with
my
you.
website. I'm on all the socials as well, Cara Vaval ESQ. The book is on my website. It's also on Amazon. It's everywhere books are sold. So Barnes and
Yes.
Noble, you name it, you'll find it. And that's me, and that's where you can find me. And again, if you are in a place in your life where you are looking to make that change, get off the clearance rack, step into your main character, abundant era. I'm definitely your girl. So just reach out. I'll be too
I
happy.
love it.
That's
Get
what's so
off the
good.
clearance rack.
Yes, we don't want that. It clearance is for the boat.
No,
We don't want to do
no.
that.
Thank you so much,
No
Kara, for
more.
being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacqueline. Appreciate you.